Good evening, everyone. My name is Luis Perez-Pedia. I'm chair of the Historic Districts Commission in Concord. Welcome to the July 7th, 2022 meeting of the Town of Concord, a Historic Districts Commission. The Commission will review 2 continuances and 5 new applications this evening. I will make an announcement at the beginning of the meeting. We will also conduct some additional business at the end of the meeting. We're conducting this meeting online in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The public may access this call through both telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment and on applications and discussions following the petitioner's presentation and questions from the Commission. To do so, please raise your hand in the participant function of the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. Our host will mute microphones of those not speaking, and in order to preserve bandwidth, and may need to turn off the video, with the exceptions of the commissioners, the host, and the current applicant. I will call on each commissioner for comments on an application and then open the meeting for public comment. Once there are no more public comments, I will ask for a motion from the Commission to continue, to approve with conditions, or to reject. A second, and conduct a roll call vote. Once the Commission has acted on an application, the applicant is free to leave the meeting. Before we start this meeting, I want to recognize Ann Clifford as the new senior planner of the Town of Concord, assigned to the Historic Districts Commission. Ms. Clifford has a bachelor's and master's degrees in classical studies, art, and the history of art and architecture from Tufts University. She has worked as a researcher in architectural history for the Cambridge Historical Commission, as an architectural history consultant in Boston, and for 22 years was the curator of Stonehurst, the Robert Treat Paine estate in the city of Waltham. She is the author with Thomas Paine of the monograph Stonehurst, the Robert Treat Paine estate, which documents this architectural masterpiece designed by H.H. Richardson and Frederick Law Olmsted. We're lucky to have her working with our commission, and we extend her a warm welcome. We will do a roll call of the members of the commission. Abigail? Here. Catherine Mast? Henry Moss? Peter Nobili? Here. And Luis Perez-Pedia, I am here. Voting members will be all members of the commission present. So we will proceed to the first continued public hearing, which is Main Street, 52 Main Street in the Main Street Historic District, to remove, replace, and install new lighting. And we understand that the applicant has asked for a continuance to the meeting of August. Is that correct, Haley?
That's correct.
Shall I go ahead and make a motion, Luis?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we do the motion with the correct continuance date. That's all.
I would make a motion then that we grant a continuance to the applicant for work at 52 Main Street to the August 18th meeting of this year.
Second? Okay, I'll go around. Abby?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So the next continuance is the Concord Colonial Inn, 48 Monument Square, the Northbridge Monument Square Historic District, to construct new patio and brick terrace with associated landscaping, and construct new covered decks, new door, and new lighting. And this applicant, I understand, has also asked for a continuance to the August meeting. So I will ask from the commission a motion to continue this application.
I'll make a similar motion, if I might, for 48 Monument Square to grant the applicant a continuance to the August 18th meeting of this year.
Second.
All right, Abby?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So now we will proceed to the public hearings. The first one is Jamie Morin, 32 Lower Road in Northbridge Monument Square Historic District, to replace windows. Is the applicant here or a representative?
Steve Dana for renewal by Anderson for Jamie Morin.
Welcome. If you would be so kind to give us a quick rundown of what is that you are intending to do.
We are intending to replace, I believe it's 10 windows in the rear of the home that does not face the street, faces their backyard, both on the first floor and 2 on the second floor.
Okay. Do we have any material in the website, Haley or Heather? Yes. You want to? Can we put some of the material of the website on the screen?
Haley's going to be putting up the stuff tonight.
Yep, I'll have that up momentarily.
Technology, right?
It has to fit through the wire.
Don't worry, Haley. There's no pressure whatsoever.
I'll get it.
Very nice.
Perfect.
Okay, so let me. So I understand you are replacing how many windows?
I believe there's 10.
Okay. And you just mentioned that many of these windows are facing the back of the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and are they visible from the public way?
I'm sorry?
Are they visible from a public
No,
way?
they are not.
So we have to ask technically, do we have is it necessary for us to review this application if they are not visible from the public way?
Steve, are any of the windows visible from the public way?
No, Peter, they are not.
Oh, I think
Okay.
we're done.
Well, I don't want to jump the gun.
No, please look at all the pictures. You'll see they're all just in the back of the house.
Okay. Can we put a Google map of the house so we can put the windows in context?
We'll never leave our houses again.
Unfortunately, I know.
Okay, maybe you can put the satellite layer that gives you kind of a better. Okay.
I apologize. I seem to be having trouble navigating.
Okay. So why don't you just keep the picture on the not on the street view, but on the vertical view from the top, because then we can see what are the boundaries of the house, and we can confirm that there are no public ways around exactly. And now just come down on that. Exactly. So can you identify there where the windows are located? Oh, come out.
Sorry.
None of these look like the right address.
It's not that 32 Elm? No, that's not it.
It's Lowell.
It's Lowell. It's 32 Lowell.
32 Lower Road. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Right by the Colonial Inn.
Exactly.
There we go.
Now we're cooking. Okay.
Not sure why I brought me
Exactly.
elsewhere.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Dinner at the
that,
Colonial Inn.
I think that's good
That's it.
enough.
That's it.
That's good enough. Okay.
Perfect.
So, Steve, could you tell us where are these windows?
So as you're looking down Lowell Road, where that white car is their driveway.
Uh-huh.
And then the driveway goes into their garage where the two black things are. And then there's a little gate that you go through and it looks like a little off-colored little gray patch up in the left-hand corner. And that's where they're going, in that little gray patch in there. There's a little patio area, if you would, right back there.
Okay, and it would be possible from Lowell Road, from further away from the Colonial Inn, further away from the house to the north, to see these windows from the walkway or from the street.
Impossible. There's a big hedge that runs from the hotel, and then there's another big fence in bushes. I don't know. I don't have that again to the top left of the picture. That you couldn't see either. The windows that are visible are the house orientation, the front door, which faces directly to Lowell Road. Then the right side of the house would be on their driveway. The left side would be, again, to all those bushes. And the back is a enclosed patio area that, unless we're all very big basketball players and jumping, could see the windows. Even from Lowell Road is impossible.
And now the fact that you cannot see them is because of the vegetation that exists there, or because there are actual structures that obscure them?
There's actual structure that it's the garage. And again, I'm sorry about the north and south thing. The garage blocks it from the front. From the back is their pool and property that, again, there's that right there. And then there's a fence that runs along the inside of that you can't see because the vegetation is blocking the fence.
Okay. So I think that I will ask for members of the commission to make any comments whether actually do we have a jurisdiction over this application. Maybe Abigail can tell us.
I mean, if the windows aren't visible from the public way, then we have no jurisdiction. And my understanding of this would be, it would be a real stretch to say that these were visible from a public way. I can't quite envision either stand. I don't see how that's possible, but so my feeling is that it's not visible from a public way. We don't have jurisdiction. Even if we did, I would say that I would have no objection to the replacement of these windows. So.
Okay. Well, I'll go around there. Peter.
What Abigail said, same thing. So no comment, really. I think it would be fine.
Catherine?
Yeah, I think he's good to go ahead.
Henry?
I would not oppose this, but I have a couple of questions. One, there was a shot from the interior of maybe the kitchen that suggested that there was a very deep meeting rail, and I didn't think that's what you were doing. Is that because is that a shade that's down over the meeting rail?
Yes, sir. That's a shade that's in front of me.
And I understand that
are exactly the same.
And these are fiberglass?
No, these are Fibrex. This is a wood composite on the outside.
So the interior is wood and the exterior is a wood composite, so it's phenolic.
Yes.
I see.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, it's certainly going to be an upgrade in terms of U value. I support this.
Okay, I have no objections, and I don't believe we have jurisdiction. But the feeling of the commission is that even if we had a jurisdiction, it probably would be acceptable. So I think that we should discharge this matter administratively and declare ourselves that we have no jurisdiction and that therefore the applicant can proceed with the project as he wishes. And as a matter of principle, I'll ask for a vote on this subject. And I don't know if we should make a motion.
Sorry, Luis, as a point of order, Heather and Haley, did you determine that these were visible from a public way and we did have jurisdiction, or was that issue not considered when?
I guess it was unclear from the application. They had, I believe they had, I can't recall if they had submitted a building permit application for the windows and it was flagged. I guess we thought they were just doing the windows in the whole house, so we didn't realize it was not visible from a public way.
Okay.
So if we had known, if we had seen a site plan, we wouldn't have had them submit an application.
Okay, I didn't want to, if you guys had made a determination that it was visible, I didn't want to contradict that without having further
No.
discussion. So Heather, in terms of procedure.
I don't think you even have to vote on anything.
Okay.
It's really just replacement in kind and not under your jurisdiction, so.
Okay, so we have established that we have no jurisdiction, so the applicant is free to go and put the windows as he wishes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks very much for coming.
Have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thank you. All right, the next applicant is Kim Ahern, 12 Bow Street, Northbridge Monument Square Historic District, to install fencing. There's Mrs. Ahern.
I
Kim.
should say it
Good evening.
up front. Hi, good evening. You're cutting in and out a little bit for me. So
I think you're actually cutting in and out too. I think it might be,
Yeah,
you may need to turn your camera off, Kim. Maybe try that. You're frozen now.
yeah, you're frozen
Okay.
now.
How's that? Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay,
You can't
we
see
can
me.
hear you.
but okay, you know what I'm like. You've seen me
We know
before.
what you look like.
I'm a real person.
All right, Kim, if you want to go ahead and present the plan.
Sure. I'm representing my clients, Kim and Matt McManus. They have just moved into the house. I believe it was this week or the end of last week. They were living out of state. They've lived in Concord before, and they've bought this house recently. They have 3 very large dogs, and that's what is sort of precipitated this need for some additional fencing. The dogs are very big. There's an adequate fence along the north, or if you're looking at the plan, you can put the plan up. I can just say left and right might be easier. Okay, so there are adequate except for the fence along the bottom, which is the southwest. That's a low chain link fence, but you can't really see that one from the street. So we've focused on showing the ones that are sort of parallel to the front of the house, and those are just to contain the dogs. You can see one has a double gate, and the one over by the garage has a single gate. Oh, yes, I think that has a gate, yes. And the type of fence we've shown, so typical Walpole woodworkers, board and lattice top. And it would be painted the color of the house, so sort of a beige color.
Okay. And the height of the fence would be the same of the rest of the height of the gate, to say so, it would be the same of the fence that's running, that is there?
Yes, yes, and the lower right, we're not going to use that. We're going to use the lattice fence. Well, that would be everywhere, but you can't see the sides of the property from the street. You can only see these two smaller segments, and they're set back. The one by the garage is really tucked behind there. We're not there's a dogwood in front of the longer section. We're just going to prune that. We're planning on keeping it.
Okay, so the plan is to build basically a gate with the same, which one of these two designs that you have on the bottom on page, let's see, below the
Yeah,
site
the left,
plan,
it's the lower left.
the lower left, okay.
Right.
And the
It's
house
6
already
feet
has a,
from- The house is surrounded by other fences, and two of the property lines have fencing that's also 6 feet tall.
okay. All right, so basically it's just two gates, one on the left and one on the right side of the house. Is that correct?
Two gates on, it'll be two gates on one side of the house and
Uh-huh.
one gate in a little garage in the back towards the rear of the garage.
Okay. All right, so I will ask for comments from the commission. Abby?
So I just want to clarify this because I'm reading the application, and so the new fencing is both on either side of the house, which is the board and lattice fencing, and then you're proposing new fencing that surrounds the entire property. There are existing fences from the neighbors, but
Right.
you're suggesting that you'll fence the entire property. Is that correct?
That's, well, we just decided, there's some design decisions being made, but the one on the right-hand side of the plan, which is the south side, that currently has about a 3.5 foot high chain link fence.
Okay.
And that one, so that fence needs to be put in soon.
Okay.
And the rest, we're going to be looking at, it would, it really depends on the whole landscape design at this point. It may just stay, the fencing from the neighbors might be sufficient.
But what are you asking for approval for, I guess is my question, because we need to either, if it's just the two front sections of the board and lattice fencing in the color to match the house, or are you asking for that and the 6 foot fence of the whole property?
Well, if it's easier to say the whole property, but the one we need, the three things we really need right now are the two segments that are parallel to the street, and that one segment that's on this plan on the lower part, that's going to be in place of the 3 foot, 3.5 foot high chain
And
link
is the fencing material, is it AZAC or is it cedar?
Cedar.
Cedar, okay. And then at one point in the application, you have underlined dark green. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
is
the
the fencing that faces the street is the color of the house, and the facing and the rear sections of fencing are dark green?
Right, that you can't see from the street anyway.
Okay. Okay, and all of the fencing is at a 6 foot height?
That's right.
Okay, and is that 6 feet total, including the lattice, or is that 6 feet to the lattice and the lattice topper?
No, 6 feet total.
6 feet total, okay.
Includes.
Okay. I have no objection. I think these are materials that have been used in other locations within this district. I think it is not directly on the street. I think it is far enough back from the public way that I'm not concerned about the visibility. And I'm sensitive to the concerns of containing dogs and kids and all the rest. But I would like specificity when you submit when we have final approval about exactly in terms of, I know we're approving the 2 front sections and a replacement along the chain link, but we want specificity just in terms of what exactly is going to be built. I know you have some concerns about the landscaping design and all of that, but we have to be specific in our approval. So we can always approve something and then decide not to build it. That's acceptable.
Well, so if the whole property were to be with a new fence, it would be the green solid board with the lattice top to match the ones in the front. So would it be better if we just, sort of applied for the whole fence?
Well, I guess my question is the front ones are beige, but the back ones are green?
You're very dark green, right?
Okay, but the front ones are beige to match the house.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. Sorry, Heather and Haley, what was noticed in the actual application? Because we may not be able to approve rear fencing if it wasn't noticed.
It just says to install fencing.
Okay, so that's broad enough. Okay. And what was the decision? Sorry, I'm being really specific about this. What was the decision for the beige versus the green, having the 2 colors of fencing?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm asking you.
Why
Yeah. Sorry, Kim.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the idea with the dark green is so that it really disappears. I didn't want, in terms of design, to have it more visible. And I'm planning to, in the design, put in a lot of trees and shrubs, as I always do. Your board knows that.
Yeah.
And so I wanted it to really blend in with the plants and not be so much of a backdrop that's noticeable.
Sure. I guess my only comment would be like 2 colors of fencing meeting might be a bit odd, but I don't have a strong objection to it. I'm open to what other commissioners think. So those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Javi. Peter.
I don't want to add much. I think the fencing design is fine. I think to address your concern, Abby, I think they're far enough back from the street that even if they're green and it's a contrasting color to the house, I think that would actually, or sorry, even if they weren't green and it wasn't a contrasting color, I think they'd be in shadow a lot of the time. So I would personally just recommend they all be green, all the fencing, but design seems fine. It's a tasteful layout, so no objection.
Thank you, Peter. Catherine.
I agree with my fellow commissioners. I think that especially in light of the fact that there's similar fencing used in surrounding properties, and this board and lattice fence is used elsewhere to continue it for corralling the dogs is fine. And I also agree that I don't think the issue with the changing color is a problem. I think I do think, though, it might also be a nice contrast to have the green against the beige of the house. So to Peter's point, having the fencing all green might not be a bad idea. But so I think it's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Henry.
Thank you. I have driven past the site, and the house is somewhat elevated, and the proposed fences and gates are set back. I think it's going to be fine, and I have no problem at all with the 2 colors.
Thank you, Henry. I have no objections at all, so I will ask if were there any public comments on this application. All right, if there are no public comments, I will ask for a motion from the commission.
I'll be happy to make a motion that we approve the application for new fencing at 12 Bow Street based on our comments this evening.
Second?
Second.
Okay, I'll go backwards. Henry,
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Abby?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Thanks, Kim.
So thank you very much, Kim.
Thank you. Nice to
For-
see you all.
Thanks for coming by. All right, the next application is Anne Dercio, 126 Lowell Road, Main Street, North Bridge, Montgomery Historic District, to replace Signage. Is the applicant here?
This is Concord Lumber, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if the applicant knew that he was supposed to come, or?
Yeah, the applicant Ander, so I spoke to her and confirmed the date of the hearing. Don't see her.
Okay, so let's pause this application and let's proceed to the next one. And then we'll come back to it once the applicant becomes available. The next one would be then Belinda and David Apis, 169 Main Street, to install storm doors. And I see Mr. and Mrs. Apis there.
Thank you.
So welcome. If you want to tell us what you're planning to do.
The house is quite old. We need storm doors to keep the rain and snow out, not just the wind. It used to have some kind of door in front, we can tell from, indentations that are quite old. And we're proposing wooden storm doors painted black, which is the color of the outer door, if that makes sense, on both the front and the side. The front is quite visible from the street, the side much less so, but still possible. So you have jurisdiction, I think.
Okay. All right. And do we have a sheet with the materials and
Yes,
details?
it's African mahogany. It will be painted black as the inside doors. And yes, it's available there from Vintage Doors. And it, as you can see, has smaller rectangles underneath the cross piece.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I will ask for comments. Abigail.
Sorry, I'm saying goodnight to my kids, so if you can circle back to me, that would be great.
I'll circle back to you. I'll go backwards. I'll start with Henry then.
I thought this was exemplary. My only question was whether the horizontal element below the doorknob aligns with the separation in the original door. I can never quite bring the black door to light. Was one of the shots of the existing exterior door from the interior?
No, they're exterior. Oh, well, wait, that's
Yes.
interior, you're right. And that's the front door.
So all I wondered is whether the the mid rail of the storm door aligns with the mid rail of the existing door.
They certainly overlap. I'm not sure they're identical.
They don't look like they are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it matters that much. Generally, it's a good thing to try to do if it's not that difficult. I think what you've done is exemplary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. And of course, those are details that only an architect would see. So, Catherine.
I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be very discreet.
Thank you, Peter.
Great. I love the door, the photo with the crack in it. That's more people would do this kind of thing to justify what they're doing, because
That's one of many.
our house is full of these cracks.
Ever since the crosswalk, traffic calming crosswalk went in at Concord Academy Crosswalk, the trucks go over it faster and the house shakes more.
Oh, boy. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, I think it's great. I think it'll look terrific.
Thank you.
Abigail.
Yes, I think, this is one of those kind of modern inventions that we can use in the historic district to preserve original features. So rather than replace this entire front door and the casing with something that eliminated the cracks and made it more weather tight, a storm door is a good compromise to provide, the homeowner with the benefits of something that, provides obviously more warmth and energy savings, but doesn't denigrate the historical integrity of the house. So I think it's appropriate, and I think it's in keeping with our guidelines.
Thank you, Abby. I will echo all the comments of the fellow commissioners, and I have no objections whatsoever. So are there any public comments on the application for 169 Main Street? Okay, in the absence of public comments, I'll ask for a motion from the commission.
I will make a motion to approve the application to install storm doors at 169 Main Street per the application we've reviewed this evening.
Okay, second?
Second.
Right. All right. What happened to Henry? Henry, your vote. No, he's muted.
Aye.
Okay. Catherine?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Abby?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So you are all set. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, the next application is Thomas Putnam, 53 Cambridge Turnpike, the American Mile Historic District, to install signage, and that's the Concord Museum. Is the applicant here? So I don't see anybody.
I know he's in Maine.
Yeah, Bob, I believe it was Bob Ripley was supposed to be here to speak on his behalf.
Oh, there's somebody named Bob here.
Can we unmute Bob to make sure that that is correct?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Oh, good. Oh, great. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I'm standing in for Tom. So I'm Bob Ripley, the Director of Finance. And this sign is the final piece of the construction of the building that you see. And what we're doing is a wayfinding project on the interior of the museum. And we wanted to add this small postage sign on the right of the main door, the historic door. And in the past, what we've done is to actually tape some paper inside. So we thought this would really lend itself to look much nicer. And it's a sign that we'll be able to, as the museum days change, for example, you see in the example, it says open Tuesday through Sunday. But as we go into different seasons, it may be, for example, Wednesday through Sunday, and so what we'll do is we'll have inserts that we'll be able to replace with the sign. But you'll see the size is it's 12 inches wide by 17, a little over 17 inches tall, and it will have a plastic covering over to protect it from the elements. So want to appreciate your support.
Thank you very much. So I will ask for comments from the commission. Peter?
Well, the only thing I would say is having living with an English major, I think THRU is a colloquial spelling of through. I mean, I'm only being half kidding here. Is that intentional to say THRU instead of through, THRUGH? It's fine. I think it's a lovely design. I think it fits proportionally. I don't have any objection to the design. It's just that one little spelling thing. I don't know if it matters to the spelling nerds at the museum. That's all.
Yeah, I think the thought was to, we thought if we used the full word, it would, and this was the designer we worked with, that we wouldn't be able to see the Tuesday, Sunday. And we didn't want to just put a dash there. So the fabricator came up with the THRU, which,
okay,
like you, it went through much discussion.
Well, it'll be a front page article in the Concord Journal, so just be ready.
Okay, in that case, use Tom's name and not mine.
Right. I have no other comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Catherine.
Yes, I do kind of agree with Peter's somewhat nerdy, but appropriate comments about the spelling. But I understand from the designer's perspective to draw attention to the actual days. I have no objections.
Thank you, Catherine. Henry.
I like this. I thought that the through could be lowercase and then he could spell it out and Peter would be allowed to go home at night.
Sleep.
A nice idea.
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you, Henry. Abigail.
I have no objection. The through didn't bother me until Peter brought it up, and now it keeps me up at night and it will haunt my dreams and nightmares. But I trust there was a reason behind it. Yeah, I have no objection.
Thank you, Abby. I have no objections, but I think that the applicant should present a certificate from the Oxford English Dictionary that the word is being properly used.
You're kidding.
I hope so. Are there any public comments on the application from the Concord Museum? Okay, if there are no public comments, then I will ask for a motion from the commission.
I'll move that we approve the application for signage at 53 Cambridge Turnpike and leave the spelling of the word through up to the applicant.
A second?
Second.
Henry?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Abigail?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, good evening.
All right, now is the applicant for 126 Hollow Road here, Haley or Heather?
Let's see.
I still do not see an Anderso.
Okay, so what would be the procedure? Should we consider this application without the applicant present, or should we continue it for the next meeting? Administratively, do we know what is the correct thing to do?
You can do either. You can look at the plans, and if everything is clear to you and it makes sense, you could move forward with the application without the applicant being there, or you can continue it to the next meeting and wait, which you may have to do if you don't have sufficient information anyways.
Okay, then let's, as a matter of principle, let's review the application materials. If you can put them in the screen. So just by looking at the application, looks like it's a fairly, there are a number of changes. There's a freestanding sign. Do we know the existing sign? Where is it located? I'm trying to place it. I'm not being able to.
It's right on Lowell Road.
At the far end as you leave town of their
On the
front
far, okay.
parking lot.
All right. And then they are changing the appearance of that sign with a different color lettering and so forth. And then they are changing the front sign on top, in front of the building, Concord Lumber, to a green color, and other changes in the design. Okay. Well, I'm not sure that we can proceed without some input from the applicant, because I would see some observations that I personally would make, and I would like to know some of the motivations behind choosing this particular design and so forth. So I'll ask the commission for comments. Abigail.
I have no objection. I think it's a simple change in branding. As long as the size of the signs remains consistent, the size of the sign band remains consistent, and that there's no new additional lighting proposed. I think it's a branding change, and it's a style choice, and it's well within keeping within our guidelines. So I would have no objection to it on that basis.
Okay, thank you, Abigail. Peter.
Same here. It really is as Abigail says, a branding change. So, I'll miss the old logo, but I guess the new one is a tree cut through. So, and no spelling errors. So I'm happy.
Good. Catherine.
I think it's fine. I actually think visually, I may miss the old signage too, but I think it's an improvement. I think it's lighter and a little fresher. So I'm fine with it.
Okay. Henry.
I think the freestanding sign actually looks better than the one that's there today. I'm not as happy about the replaced sign on the board across the door, but this doesn't in any way, as far as I can tell, affect any historic resource in the area, either in terms of the site itself or perception of neighbors. So I would not oppose it.
Okay. Did I asked everybody already? You made comments, Abigail, right? Yeah, okay. So I'll echo Henry's comments, and I will echo exactly the same words in relation to the banner on the front, but I have no objections that can be rationalized in any way. So any public comments about this application? So if there are no public comments, then I will ask for a motion from the commission.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve the application to replace signage at 126 Lowell Road per the application that we reviewed this evening.
A second?
Second.
Henry?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Abigail?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Well, we thank the applicant in his absence for his presentation. And I think we are done with the public hearings and the continued public hearings. So we have some other business to attend. The first one is the Go Outdoors art installation. Do we have any information about this other business item, Haley or Heather?
There's some stuff on the website there, I see.
Yes. We have for the Go Outdoors, we have Nicole Harris, although I don't see her here. But I can certainly share the materials.
Okay, yeah, well, I put the materials on the screen and we can.
So I can explain, this is a repeat of last year. The commission had approved made an administrative approval for the go outdoors doors to be placed in 3 locations. And they are just looking to get that approval again for this year.
Okay. And how long does the display last?
I can't recall. I think it was through like October.
Yeah, I think it's seasonal.
Okay. Well, I know this is something that has been done many years before. I do remember the signs outside. So I don't anticipate any issues, but I would like to hear some comments. Abigail.
So there are more doors than just these, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know there's one in front of Fritz and Gigi that's in the district. Do we have I have no objection to them. I just think we need a complete list of where they're being installed within the district, because I think it's not just these 2. But I don't have any objection as long as we have some sort of accounting of where they are, and as long as there's an end date to their installation, I think it's fine.
Thank you, Abigail. Peter.
I echo those sentiments. I think it's actually nice to have more public art, and this is a nice, nicely designed idea. So I have no objection.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Catherine.
I agree.
Henry.
I thought Abigail stated it perfectly. It'd be good to know that there aren't 400,000 of these and where they're going to be and when they're going to be installed and when they're going to be taken away.
I agree with Henry and with Abigail. I think that we should have, I don't see any problem approving this administratively, but I believe that we should have a complete list of all the signs that are going to be erected in the historic district and the exact dates when they will be erected and when they will be removed. Can we obtain that information from the applicant, Haley or Heather?
Yes.
Okay.
So do you want to put this off to the next meeting then?
Well, I think this part can be approved conditionally,
Okay.
in the sense that it's approved as long as a complete list with the dates is provided.
As far as
The applicant just entered the meeting, so she could probably give those answers right now.
Okay. So who is the applicant, Heather?
Sorry,
yeah.
I just got here. My name is Nicole Harris.
Oh,
I am from the Umbrella, or I'm working with the Umbrella Art Center on this project. And I apologize because I missed whatever the actual question was that was asked.
we were just commenting that this is a display that has been erected sometimes before, and that there are very minor modifications that we don't consider them to be substantial. But what we would like to have is to have exact dates on when they will be erected, when they will be removed, and a list of all of them that are being erected within the historic districts. That was our main concerns.
My understanding is it's just these 2 that are in this document that are in the historic district. We are going to install them once we get permission, like at some point in the next week or 2, depending on whether or not we need to call DigSafe. And they all will be deinstalled the first, like within the week that has November 1st in it. So either like the last few days of October or the first few days of November.
Okay.
Sorry, Nicole, quick question. I think there's one on the lawn at Fritz and Gigi. Am I wrong about that?
There is, but I was not told that that was on. Apologies.
That's okay. Yeah, no. So I think that's the only one other than these 2 that I've seen. But
There's one on the Tricon Church property. there's 2 in the Concord Market parking lot, and there's 1 behind Fritz and Gigi, or like behind the bookstore in that parking lot, on the backside of those. That's everything that's been installed so far.
Okay, so those are all within the district and visible from a public way.
Interesting. My apologies.
No worries. But if we can just get a complete list, be expansive in your thinking about what might be in the district or visible from a public way. Like that parking lot is public behind Fritz and Gigi. Obviously, the Fritz and Gigi, Concord Market's within the district. The Tricon Church is within the district. So yeah, so if we can kind of take a second glance at what, they're all in town, right? They're not further out than that.
Correct. So far, those are the only ones that have been installed. We are talking to the rec department about doing one at.
Sorry, you froze.
We cannot hear you.
So Nicole's frozen. You might want to try turning off your video. Sometimes that will unfreeze you. But either way, I would say if we can just get the full list, if the full list of installations is submitted to Heather and Haley, they can go through and just check off what would be considered in the district and not in the district. And if that list then has dates of installation and removal, they can just provide us with the full list. And I can't imagine it would be an issue, but that information would be helpful for us.
I think that's the right way to go. So if we can implement that, Haley and Heather, I think that this can go ahead and be approved administratively. Do we need a vote for that?
Yes, you need a vote for that.
All right, so I'll ask the commission for a motion to approve the Go Outdoors art installation.
I make that motion. I move that we approve the Go Outdoors art installations as discussed this evening.
A second?
A friendly amendment that a full list of locations and dates be submitted to be approved administratively.
Thank you.
Exactly. Okay, a vote, Catherine?
Aye.
Yes, Henry?
Yes.
Peter?
Aye.
Abigail?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. All right,
The ayes have it.
the ayes have it. Okay, the next point of discussion, the item of discussion is Main Street and Walnut Street Shared Streets and Spaces Project. Anybody here from this project, from this discussion?
Yes, I am. My name is Erin Stevens. I'm the town's public information and communications manager, but I also work with the Transportation Advisory Committee as their staff person, and I am working with planning and engineering on this project. Sorry, it's a mouthful. I can go longer if you need a few more
Keep going.
descriptors in there.
Yeah, and we want to have all your initials after your name.
So I'll tell you a little bit about the project, and then I'm sorry I didn't send them ahead of time. I also have some pictures I can show as well. Am I able to share my screen? Yes. Perfect. So just quickly as the basics. So the Shared Streets and Spaces grant program was started during the pandemic in order to help people get outside and to create more pedestrian friendly areas so people would feel more comfortable being in the spaces in their communities. It's really focused on improvements that will help public spaces and will help economic development, things of that nature. This year's focus was on speed management. And so we identified 2 different projects that we thought would be of benefit to the town. And this was the one that we were very fortunate to get grant funding for. So we're very excited about that. We got about $200,000, and our proposed project is to do a stamped pavement. And the idea behind the stamped pavement is that it will create a visually something that will stop people from going so fast through the center of town because it is visually different. The hope is that this will help slow down traffic that is going through the town center at Main and Walden, will allow for safer pedestrian crossing, and will also create sort of visual interest, and will really help with creating that sort of historic aesthetic that we all love about Concord. So this is sort of the proposed idea. It's a very basic graphic rendering, but the left is what it looks like today, and the right is the idea of what we're proposing. So it is a stamped pavement that is the same color as the pavement, but is stamped to look either like cobblestones or like brick or something like that. That's one of the things that we really wanted to get the HDC's opinion on, to sort of, you know, we're early on in this process, we have the funding, but we have the opportunity to sort of tweak it and make sure that it is within the historic district's aesthetic looks, and something that will be pleasing to the community as well. So this is what it looks like today. And this is on the ground what it could look like. And then same thing from a different angle. So just sort of this is a broad concept. It's not actually designed yet. We haven't gone through an engineering firm or anything like that. One of the proposed changes would be to create bump outs. Those would be right over here to create a larger sidewalk area to bump it out, so that pedestrians that are trying to cross the street are both easier to be seen by traffic that's coming through, as well as they can also see without stepping into the street if there are cars coming. Our idea is to either do planters in those, or we're also looking at if it's even feasible to do. Well, like I said, we haven't gone through an engineering firm yet. These are just sort of our ideas and our renderings. We would also have these yellow lines through this to continue the paint, to help people guide them through the intersection. We have seen that people tend to go straight and then they kind of end up over here in the left turn only lane. It's not necessarily a clear shot. And so by creating those clearer lines, we're hopeful that we will be slowing cars down and also helping with making sure that they are going to the right spot. And this is just a similar rendering, but slightly different. So this is only bumping out onto Main Street on both sides over here, as opposed to Main and Walden, which would be on these sides over here. So sort of our inspiration, if you will, is we're looking at adding street trees and more plantings to sort of go with that historic character that we see. This is also has cobblestones. That's where we're coming up with this. I was speaking with Anne, and we were looking at the different historic photos that we could find. Here's another one. And that's sort of the basics of this. Sort of our planting ideas are sort of to help with both stormwater management, but also to help create that aesthetic historic feel, while also feeling very quaint in that New England feel. And some of the pavements that are on the right are the cobblestone and the brick pavers that we can look at for the stamping elements. So I'm very excited to hear what your initial thoughts are, and yeah.
Thank you very much, Erin. This is a very exciting project with a lot of potential. So I'll ask the members of the commission to make comments about it. Abigail.
Yeah, so I agree with Luis. I think there's a lot of potential here. I think the engineering discussion is really important, because I see a lot of kind of, where did the trees go? Do the trees block the sight lines when you're making that turn? I mean, there's a lot of just like practicalities to it that don't quite make sense to me yet. In terms of materials, I think there is a great opportunity. I just spent a couple of weeks in Nantucket, and they actually just redid a number of these intersections in the last year this way. And instead of using stamped concrete for the ADA ramps, they use actually stamped brick. And so it was an interesting, and they used brick and cobblestone, you know, in concert to essentially create this same look, but using more historic materials. And obviously that's a different price point, but I think we've particularly seen it. We've been sensitive to the idea that there needs to be traffic calming measures and an increase in pedestrian safety. But I think we've been troubled by the introduction of new and modern materials, particularly like plastic rumble strips and things like that. So if there's a way to increase ADA compliance without introducing more modern materials, I think that's a positive. I would say overall, I think it's an improvement. I'm curious to see what the engineering studies say. I would say my initial instinct with like the 3 planters is that's a little dinky and doesn't really do it and looks a little kind of, this is my very, very non kind of specific advice, but it shouldn't look like Disneyland, if that's at all helpful. Like it shouldn't look like we're pretending to have a historic intersection where we don't. I think it should be, if we can introduce modern materials that have historic references, increase pedestrian and traffic safety, and obviously any greening we can do is something that we're always in favor of. I don't know how that changes the lighting in the intersection, but that's also something that we want more information on. But overall, I think it's a step in the right direction. And then my last piece is that I think the red stamp, I know the different options that were given. The red stamp, I would have lots of concern about the tone and color of it, because that makes that intersection then feel almost too visible in a way that isn't in keeping with the district and could be in conflict with the existing historic brick structures around. So I want to be sensitive with the materials, but I think this is certainly something that is worth exploring, and I'm interested to see where it goes.
Hey, thank you, Abigail. Henry.
First, I think it's terrific that the town is actually thinking about this area and these topics. People don't, and your photograph from Monument Square, or really from the flagpole area, which must have been about 1905 or something like that. People don't realize that there were telephone poles on both sides of the street and overhead wires for trolleys that went all the way up Main Street, down Sudbury Road, and then over to the and beyond the depot. I believe that under the existing asphalt, you will find granite stones, Belgian block. I do like the idea of your creating bump outs, because I think that the danger is often a matter of turning traffic, and people who are not as watchful as they might be or as nimble as they might be as they cross the street. I've always been interested in the photographs that show elm trees that are actually still left in the muddy roads along Mill Dam and at Main Street. And this very much is a historic intersection. You have an 1897 bank, an 1820s bank or 30s bank, the Richardson and the Snow pharmacies on each corner. So there's a lot there. I would actually encourage your organizations to be even bolder and think about such things as where we have in Concord, because you're going to run into opposition from every retailer about any parking space that you remove. You will be treated as if it was an attack on the Constitution. What I think you might actually do is ask the engineers that are associated with fire hydrants why the pavement at a fire hydrant can't be removed for stormwater management. And depending on how the piping works, maybe plant a tree there, just not a poplar. So I think you are to be encouraged. Where I would very much discourage you is with the raised I forget what you call them, the raised textures that simulate other materials. I've never seen an installation of those that didn't look to me like a failing approximation of something real. What I have seen all over Britain is junctions of the type that you depict, where Walden Street runs into Main and Milldam, where they simply paint diagonals all the way across, back and forth, over the tarmac. And those are just white lines. And that encourages people to realize that they can walk diagonally. You would do that within the crosswalks that you have painted. And the point is that that is paint on macadam. It emphasizes the intersection, and it doesn't make you want to come back in 25 years and scrape off all of this stuff that you put down and put down another kind of surface. So I think that there's a lot here that you can build on. And it would be interesting to see some innovations and not just buying this stuff from people and putting it down with a roller.
Thank you, Henry. Catherine.
I agree with everything my fellow commissioners have said. I mean, I think vis-a-vis the stamped cobblestone effect, I don't believe I've necessarily seen it. So it's certainly something that I would love to be able to have the opportunity to see in person. I am a little hesitant, a little skeptical about how that may look. I agree with Henry that, you know, things that aren't real usually reveal themselves not to be fairly quickly to the eye. And, you know, again, I know it's new and it's clearly being done successfully in other places, but I just, I have a little bit of a hard time in imagining it and how it's going to translate within that area of our town. I think the extended curbing, I think that's a great idea. I think that will make pedestrian traffic more comfortable. I agree with Abby about the window boxes. I mean, I think if we were in Charleston, South Carolina, that might make more sense and feel more fitting. But here in New England, again, I'm just not sure how well that would really translate, especially since we have 6 or 7 months of pretty cold, raw weather most of the time. But I really appreciate the proposal and the ideas. And I think moving towards a more open and pedestrian friendly approach to how we deal with congestion and you know, how we lay out our town is it's to be commended, and it's a great idea. I think it just needs a little more thought and development in terms of, you know, how to approach it. That's it.
Thank you, Catherine. Peter.
I just wanted to add a few more comments. I think I like the fact that we're doing something about this intersection. I think I'm sort of going, I'm not sure I'm agreeing with anybody in particular, but I like the scheme that just does the tip downs at the ADA curbs, but it doesn't build the sidewalk out. I think I'm actually glad Dennis isn't here tonight, because the poor guy would have a fit. He doesn't like what's being done in front of the post office. I think Abby's comment about Disney, I would amend that to say, we don't want it to look like Wellesley, or this really is, the width of Main Street in Concord is actually quite unique in my experience around. It's not like Lexington or Wellesley. There's something about the scale, the width, the parking, the size. So it's to be really carefully preserved. I think the striping, the traffic striping and signage is absolutely brilliant and will save, I hope it saves lives. It'll save blood pressure medication, if nothing else. My question about the traffic study, can we look at that real quick? There was a page that graphed speed through the intersection. Is that really is that really the case? I had no idea there was so much speeding through that intersection. I think it's because there's no Wi-Fi signal in Concord Center. So maybe if you could, instead of doing stamped pavement, lay a big old grid of like Wi-Fi wires right in the middle of the intersection, people would slow way down. No, anyway, it really was it was a kind of astonishing that there were that many violations to the speeding through that intersection. So I think great project. It'll be really good to see the engineering study and also to just proceed with caution aesthetically. I think the traffic calming stuff is great, but I would sort of pull back a little bit on making it too Wellesley-like. Not to throw Wellesley under the bus, but I guess I just did.
Thank you, Peter. The comments I have are similar to the comments of all the commissioners. I think that you have a huge challenge here, which is that it's very easy to make this extremely effective and very competent from a traffic perspective and from a human flow perspective and everything else, and make it look artificial and make it look like somebody's trying to make an effort to look historic, which makes it like the Wellesley or Celebration or things like that. So I think that the challenge is substantial in making this intervention be a historic reference, meaning that it has to be something that to the untrained eye will be like, wow, they were paving the streets in Concord, and then they discovered the original layer of bricks or something like that. You see, it has to give that perspective that here we're seeing something that is truly authentic. I will defer into my architect fellow commissioners in terms of what material is used, but when I hear the word stamped, usually cringe, you say, because it's very artificial, it's not organic, and it looks ugly. And it's the type of thing, at least from my perspective, and it's the type of thing that in order to achieve the correct historic reference in terms of the material, which will be almost like putting individual stones as bricks, I will spend less money in the surrounding areas or in the intervention in the corners and the planting of trees and things like that. And I would concentrate the effort in making this particular spot, which is almost central for Concord, be a true historic reference, that people actually think that there was something there that was either discovered or preserved or made to shine again. But overall, I think it's a great project, and it will change the starkness and the functionality of this intersection, which is entirely in disagreement with the rest of Concord. So look forward to the rest of the project.
Thank you. And I just will make one comment, if I will, that that we decided to not go with the red at all, because we've seen in other places that they put down the red and the next year it looks kind of pink. So, and there's also, and from my perspective, my concern was that it's sort of a plasticky paint that they put onto the ground, and I was concerned about the microplastics ending up in the walkways that are right next to it. So that's why we were looking at sort of doing more of a cobblestone look, so that it would be that gray, and that was kind of our idea. But I will definitely go and speak with the engineers and see. I know that they were concerned about using specifically bricks because of they've seen that the products that they can get now aren't holding up very well over time. And so they're concerned about using that in terms of they don't want to spend all the money to put it down and have it have to be redone 2 years later or something like that. So we're gonna have to do a little bit more digging. But I think you might be a little bit surprised with the stamps. I saw one recently that I thought was real. I have an untrained eye, but I thought it looked really good. But thank you so much.
Thanks very much for the presentation. It's really interesting. Thank you. All right, so the next point of discussion is the HVAC system at the First Parish. Anybody from First Parish here?
Hi, I'm Joshua Bath from Nishatic Architects, and I am here for the First Parish in Concord.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me for this discussion. I want to, can Haley put up our one or two or all three of our options for what we're thinking of doing while I continue to discuss it? So what is happening is the First Parish in Concord is having a greening the campus initiative, and part of that initiative is they're trying to update their HVAC equipment, and one of the options that the mechanical engineer came up with was to actually put the air handling units on top of the flat part of the roof and the rear part of the First Parish in Concord. And you can see that there's two areas. And what I want to do is just have a discussion to get the commission's initial impressions and comments regarding the screening options and our attempts to be sensitive to the overall look of, the First Parish building and still be able to achieve, the First Parish's goals to placing the HVA equipment on top of the roof. We can go back to the first one first. So the first one, and if we can just zoom in a little bit. So the HVAC equipment is actually fairly large, 5'8" tall. This view would be able to be seen from Main Street. So, and it would only be able to be seen from during the winter months because it's totally covered during the spring, summer, and fall. So this one happens to be 1x6 AZAC and or a wood screening with 1.5 inch air gaps between. And it's, if you move over towards the left a little bit so we can see the rear. So it's far enough back in back of the building where you wouldn't be able to ever see it from Lexington Road on either side as you approach or come in or go out of town. So that was, one of our first thoughts. And if you can scroll down. So the second one is to have currently the exposure of the clapboard siding is 3-inch clapboard siding, and we were hoping to, as an option, have the same sort of clapboard spacing exposure and have the enclosure in this regard. The other thing that we could do is instead of having, we could have corner posts, but we could also have the clapboard be continuous and have the 3 inner posts on the backside of the enclosure. And the third one, if you go down again, is on the upper left-hand side, there's a frieze which has, again, 1x3 boards up above the clapboards that's shown on the main church and the main portion of the First Parish. And that the other option was to just have 1x3 PVC boards come up to be sympathetic to some of the other materials that are being used in order to minimize the look of this. On the rear, the only place that you can see this is looking down past Tuttle's livery. You can see part of the top half of the church from 2 locations on Walden Street. So, and again, these are pretty far back from Lexington. Well, I'm sorry, from Main Street and from Walden Street. So it's really a visual thing that's going to happen at a real distance. So again, what we are trying to do is just get some initial comments and impressions about our thoughts of keeping the HVAC equipment not front and center.
Thank you very much. I'll ask Henry to start the comments.
Thank you, Luis. Haley, can you just put up 1, 2, and 3? You can do them in sequence, slowly enough so that we can compare them. Right. So enlarge it. Yeah. Interesting. You can stay with that one for the moment. I only have a couple of questions. Generally, I think this needs to be done, and some kind of screening that is going to be recessive is a good idea. And I think the view past Wright's Tavern is the wintertime view is this one that is significant. What this elevation made me realize is how squat the elements are in the back of the church. I'd never quite recognized that they're so horizontal at the pediment, and then that lovely little area over the 2 columns with the 2 pilasters at each side of the window. And somehow those are making the fence, that enclosure, look taller. And I have a couple of questions. One is whether from say the park across Mill Dam, when you look at this, whether you would see the tops of the equipment if you made the fence somewhat lower. That's one question.
Yeah.
And that is the origin of the view issue.
Yes.
The next thing is I have a feeling that this horizontal element helps. There are all of the horizontals that are associated with the panels above the windows, and then the pediment and the area below the single window over the 2 columns. So it might be that some horizontal subdivisions of this would make it just fit in a little bit more and be a little bit less noticeable. And you're the designer who's been thinking about this. I'm just looking at it. And what I don't know is whether the frequency of columns makes it more noticeable or less. So your comment having to do with having some of the columns on the interior, particularly if you had a solution like a clapboard, I think is worth investigating. For example, in the little pedimented area over the 2 columns, there are 2 pilasters that are paired, and you might do that at the ends and then have a larger span across the center. I leave all that to you.
Sure.
Where I think you may run into trouble, I always do, is that the mechanical engineers come back to me, stamp on a cigarette and say, okay, now what we need 50 to 60% open area in the fence, in the enclosure. And I want to be sure that if you do pursue something like clapboard, that they don't come back and kill your scheme because of that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henry. Peter.
Josh, thanks. These are excellent schemes. I don't really have anything terribly useful to add. The one thing I would say is if Henry's fear does come to pass, did you consider, like up at the top of the bell tower, there's that diagonal caming in the glass. Would you ever do anything like that as a panel? Not to necessarily call attention to it, but it would just, you know, it would look a little bit less like it's trying to fit into the clapboard sort of situation and just be a thing around mechanical equipment.
Yep.
Anyway, that's one suggestion. And I actually think, I was thinking, Henry, what you're saying, it's going to be difficult to see this stuff unless you're really far back from the building, at which point, you know, then there are trees in the way. I think it's going to be hard to see this. When you're down on the ground, you never see this orthograph view anyway. So it would, you know, the fence would never really feel, at least in my experience there, that high. I think these are all interesting schemes. And I think Henry's right, Josh. Let's leave it up to you as the designer to come back with a kind of preferred direction.
Sure.
I like the whole idea. So.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Abigail.
So when you come back with a formal application, I would like to see a rendering that includes the equipment behind whatever screening that you propose, just so we can see in terms of spacing how much is going to be visible. Normally, I think relocating the equipment absolutely makes sense. And in terms of greening it, I think that's appropriate. And normally when it comes back to HVAC equipment, we're picky, but not that picky. It's kind of like hide it out of the way as much as you can. This is obviously a very important building in town. And I think it is very visible from, and it may be because my kids went to preschool there, so I've spent a lot of time staring at this building, but I think the view from Main Street and from Walden is actually, it's going to be visible. So I'd like to see a rendering that includes the equipment, because we've dealt with this issue in the past of always this balancing act of the fence has got to be high enough to screen the equipment, but not so high that it becomes this massive additional structure. I agree with Henry that there's something about the evenness of the placing of both the pilasters and the window right below, the 2 columns flanking that door, the 4 columns flanking the 3 windows. There's something about those even elements that I think he's onto something there with the spacing of the vertical structures of the screening. But I also agree that the vertical and the horizontal mixed, I think breaks the line a little bit. So I think it's absolutely doable. I think it's, I would not approve PVC. I'd say that right off the bat, just because I just wouldn't. But I think, yeah, I think we're headed in the right direction. And I think this is, this first iteration is probably the one that I think is the most appropriate. But I would trust you to kind of move in a direction that you think provides the most amount of screening in the least obtrusive way possible. And I think this is one of those things that feels very important right now, and in 10 years we won't notice. But that's only because we'll get it right this time. So
thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. Catherine.
I'm just curious, what, if anything, was considered for alternative locations for the equipment?
So one of the alternative locations was to, if you see the 2 chimneys, was to actually insert the HVAC equipment above the sanctuary in that gable end. But they decided that the vibration and noise right above the sanctuary would not be attainable. So they decided to move it out into a place where it had space, it had height, so it will reduce noise for surrounding neighbors and the community. And it just seemed like unused real estate that the church has that they would be able to hopefully utilize.
Yeah, otherwise, I agree. I mean, I think the more subtle and obviously integrated we can make it, in terms of the choice of materials and you know, kind of the cadence aligning with the other elements, will you know, make it look appropriate and of the right scale. So I mean, I am curious to see in the application what, you know, the exact materials chosen will be. I agree with Abby. I would prefer not to see PVC if at all possible.
Sure.
But otherwise, I've no great issue with it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. The comment is just to echo the comments of the architects this time, because they are the ones who have pointed out the visual aspects of the structure. And those are things that are going to engage the viewer in a sort of a subtle or subconscious way. So from that sense, trying to align or harmonize the pattern of the structure being proposed with the little portico on the bottom will be very helpful and will be appropriate. But other than that, I think that this is a difficult project that requires all the skills, and I'm sure that they do exist. So I look forward to the formal application, and I echo the same thing about the material that should not be PVC.
Great. Thank you so much. I
Mr.
really
Chair,
appreciate all your comments.
I should just point out, by the way, that I'm a member of First Parish, and I think Catherine, you are too. So I have no objectivity left about this project. So I'll probably recuse myself down the road, because between being an architect and a parishioner, it's like working on your own house.
One point about the PVC is that it's on the Living Building Challenge red list, and it's LEED doesn't like you to use it because of chlorides associated with its manufacture. And it's just inconsistent with the greening of the church.
Yeah, I apologize for even putting in AZAC or PVC. My bad. Just strike that from the record.
I heard nothing.
Good.
We won't shoot you until tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you so much. I
Thanks,
really
Josh.
appreciate the commission's time and efforts.
Go, go, go. Looks good.
Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you.
And we look forward to the project in the future. So the last item of the other business is a certificate amendment for 155 Monument Street.
What's that?
What is that all about?
I don't know.
Do we have
It's on the website. I can't.
Um,
Mark, are you going to talk about that?
Mark, are you there?
I'm here. I guess when we submitted the plans to the building department, they weren't the same exact as the ones that were approved. And the window on the original plan was not centered in front of the porch of the house. And in the plan we submitted to the building department, it is centered. So that got red flagged. And then there's, I guess the other problem is there's a roof over the man door of the garage, but I'm not really sure what's different about that in the original.
It looks like there's a little pediment
Oh,
being
so
added.
it was added.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't need that. I mean, I would just go with the original. I mean, I'm happy with that. You know, so really the only thing that I would like to do is center the window. I mean, I would like to probably put 2 single windows in originally, but this is where we're at, and the windows have been ordered.
Okay. Could you tell us then exactly what are the differences between what was approved and that was needed eventually?
So
the centering of the just almost like a checklist.
Yeah, that's there's 3 items. There's a window on the I guess it would be the south side of the building, a basement window that's going in, which I don't even want to put in. So we could just strike that out.
Okay.
I don't want that. There'd be the front of the elevation would be the centering of that window that's on the porch. So
which plan are we referring to? The east elevation or the...
it would be the east elevation, right side, and you see how the existing the proposed has it pushed way to the left. And if you go to the other plan that we submitted to the building department, it's more centered. It is centered.
Next drawing.
Next drawing.
There it is.
There it is. It's centered, which I think
Okay.
it looks. I think it looks better, but I don't. You know, like.
All
I
right.
don't
So
hold up the permit either.
the first is on the east elevation where the window gets centered.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the next one?
Go to the garage. Oh, that there's a window got added into the foundation, the new foundation, which we don't need and we don't want.
Okay, so we're not going to discuss that, right?
We just strike that out.
Okay. And what's the third?
The third item is the garage side of the house, so it'd be the north elevation.
I think it's west, Mark.
No,
Right.
west is the back, so I think it's north.
It's noted as west on the plans.
That's what's on the plans.
Yeah, the west elevations, the approved plans don't have the pediment over the door unless these have been labeled incorrectly.
So I would say let's not do the pediment.
So then the only change you're looking for approval is centering
the window. That's it.
Okay. So that's basically just one thing, which is to center the window in the east elevation.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any comments from the commission? Abigail?
I have no objection.
Peter?
No, actually, this matches Joanna's letter at the end of the application, pretty much.
Good. Catherine?
I think it's fine. I think the centering of the window is good.
Henry?
Good.
And I agree as well. So I will ask for a motion from the commission to do a certificate amendment for 155 Monument Street to modify the position of the window in the east elevation.
So moved.
Second. Abigail?
Mhm.
Peter?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So I think we're done. Anything else that we must discuss or any comments anybody may have?
God, it's almost 9 o'clock. Thank God the two big applications dropped off the map. We'll be here till midnight.
Heather and Haley, when do you think you're going to have the minutes for the 6/16 meeting available?
So I am currently working on those now. Those should be done by tomorrow.
Okay. So my request would be that you circulate those to everybody, and that we're not gonna edit those in meeting or simply say, oh yeah, I didn't have a chance to look at them. I don't want anyone voting to approve those without having read them thoroughly and submitted any edits back to Heather. And I'm not going to sign them unless everybody does that.
They will also go to town council.
Yes. So I will not sign them unless everyone can independently confirm to Heather that they have read them and reviewed them. Okay.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Thanks for our secretary putting her foot down.
I'm putting my foot down. I'm not signing them unless you all are with me. So.
No, it's good.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, anything else? Well, thank you very much. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you all.
Plenty of sleep
Night,
before
everyone.
that.
Thank you, Linda, for your patience.
Incidentally, I think Ann Clifford's going to be very good.
Looks like, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I will say, as they say in Somerville, I was with us.